Okay, the first application I will run through is JQuiz. To start creating a JQuiz, we'll open up Hot Potatoes and click on the potato labeled JQuiz, and you will be introduced to this interface. It'll look almost exactly identical for Windows, so you won't have to worry about that. Now before we do any work on it, let's just give it a title. Let's call it Sample JQuiz. Click on File, Save Data File, and give it the same name. We'll call it Sample JQuiz. I would recommend saving all of your potatoes into the same file, so we'll be able to recover them all when we want to use the masher and turn it all into a unit. You'll notice that the format here, the file format, is .jqz. That stands for JQuiz, and it simply means that I'm only going to be able to open this file, this data file, using the JQuiz application. Alright, so I'll click Save here. It'll say my file contains a space, which is not a problem. Alright, so looking at this interface, we have this Q over here, which stands for question. I can use this arrow key to navigate between the questions that I create. So in other words, if I say, what is the square root of 144, because there's a 1 here, this is going to be designated as question 1. And question 2 would be blank, question 3 would be blank, but when I go back to question 1, it'll be right there. Now I also have two columns here. I have answer column and a feedback column. The answer column would be where I would put all the possible solutions. Right now I have my answer under multiple choice, so that's the kind of problem this is right now. I have multiple choices, but only one of them can be accepted as correct. So let's just put in some dummy values here, 9, 10, and 11, and then 12 would be the correct answer. I could add more if I want, up to 30 in fact, but that would be a bit overkill. Just for this example, since 12 is in fact the square root of 144, I can click on Accept as Correct here, and now the program knows that 12 is in fact the correct answer to this problem. That is all it takes to make a JQuiz, but let me just show you what it looks like when I put it up. So let's click on this web icon here with the little 6 in the corner, and it'll give us another saving window. But instead of saving the data, the JQuiz file, I'm saving the web page, the HTML file. And again, I would recommend putting that in the same folder just to keep everything all nice and together. We'll click on Save, and it'll say it contains a space, which is not a problem. And now I'll be given two options. One of them will be Done, which does absolutely nothing. Or I can click on View in Browser and have my quiz show up. And this will be the basic quiz interface. If I click on an answer like 10 for instance, I'll get an X over here and a message, a default message saying not perfect yet, please try again. I can click on 9, get the same thing, and when I click on the right answer, it'll say correct. It'll give me a score based on how many incorrect answers I had, and then it'll say I completed this exercise. And that would be it. Now let's just, before I conclude, let's talk about some of the other parts that are here. We also have feedback. What feedback does is that it sends a message to the user when they select that particular answer and it would be incorrect. So it would be an incorrect message. So I could say, for instance, not 9, it's higher. For here I could say not 10, even higher, and then not 11, almost there. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to click on the same web icon here, and don't worry about saving a duplicate here. I'm just going to click on Save Again, and it'll ask to replace the existing file. When you're first working out with hot potatoes, it's a good idea to get into the habit of replacing your old file whenever you make a change, just to see if it made the correct change that you wanted or worked in the way you wanted it to. So let's just see it. We view it in browser, and if you compare it to the other one, nothing's really changed except I haven't selected answers here yet. But if I click on something like 10 for instance, my feedback message appears right here. Same for 9. There's the feedback message, and here's the feedback message. But because I chose every answer except for the correct answer, it'll give me a score of 0 and call it a day. Now you can customize what it says here, and I'll show you how to do that briefly in this video, a little bit more in detail in the next video. What you would do to change it is that you would go into Options, Open Configuration Window, and you would go to Prompts, and all the prompts would be over here. The next thing I want to go over is the different kinds of problems. So multiple choice is an option. I can make my first question multiple choice. Instead of making an entirely new problem to introduce the next problem or the next problem type, I'll just change my problem type from multiple choice to text and then save it, and it will do all of the work for me. It'll look similar to the other quiz, except instead of being multiple choice, I have this text box here. And the interesting thing here is that if I type one of the answers that I assigned feedback to, whoop, I'm sorry, that was the wrong button. Let me try that again. How do I restart this? I'll just save it again. If I click on, if I choose 9, which I set with feedback, and click check, it'll say not 9, it's higher. But if I say something that I didn't assign feedback to, it'll say not perfect yet, please try again. Now, as you saw me do by accident, if I click on show answer, it'll tell me the correct answer, and of course it'll set my score to 0 because I basically cheated. Okay. The next question type that is at your disposal is a hybrid question. And what that is it's actually a combination of multiple choice and text. And here's how it works. I'm going to show you once again. It'll start out as a text problem and act exactly like a text problem. Except if I give it too many incorrect answers, it'll change into a multiple choice question to help the user get to the answer. Of course, at that point my score would already be greatly affected because I already gave it a bunch of wrong answers, but that is another option for when you're creating questions for a JQuiz. The last type is multiple correct. Now this one is a little bit more complicated because what it allows you to do is that it allows you to create multiple correct answers, and it will be up to the user to get all of the answers that you accept as correct. So they need to check off all of the answers that you said were correct and leave blank the ones that are not correct. So I'm going to just change this question here to reflect that a bit better. Instead of saying what is the square root of 144, which only gives us one answer possibility, I will say what is lower than the square root of 144. In which case 12 would no longer be correct, but 9, 10, and 11 will be. Now, you will also want to manipulate the feedback for this, because the way the feedback works for a multiple correct response is that it will take one of the answers that the user missed at random and give them that feedback message. Therefore, it would be better to give feedback that would lead players to choosing that answer. Let me just show you what that looks like, because it's a little bit difficult to understand when I just say it. So instead of saying not 9, it's higher, I'm going to say isn't 9 less than 12. I will do the same for everything else, with a little copy and paste, but just change the numbers accordingly. And I will open the project again. Like I said, when you make the slightest little change, when you're first working with this, it's better to just keep recreating the quiz and seeing how it affects your project. So now I have what is lower than the square root of 144. If I click on just 10 and 9 and say check, I'll get 3 out of 4 here, which is because 9 I left out, so that was I missed one, but 10 was supposed to be checked off. 11 was supposed to be checked off, and 12 was supposed to be left blank. The only feedback that it can give me is on one of the ones that I got wrong, which was this one. So it gave me the feedback that I set up for it. Isn't 9 less than 12? At this point, a student would be like, oh, whoops, I missed one. And they'll click on check, and they'll get a reasonably high score since I did get the other 3 out of 4 correct. And that would be it for the exercise. The last thing I want to show you is I want to introduce that configuration window one more time, just to show you one of the parts for it that you'll find useful in all of your potatoes. So we're going to go back to Options. We're going to go to Open Configuration Window, and this prompt menu is intimidating. Let's go to Timer, and we'll click on Include Timer for Exercise, and it does just that. I'm going to set a timer for, let's say, 10 seconds, because I'm a horrible person. I could even change the message that will appear once this timer is over. So instead of your time is over, I'll say time is up, just to show what that does. You don't have to save it or anything. You can just, unless you want to save this particular format, it'll become the default once you close out of it. So I'm just going to click on Close. Once again, click on that magical web with the 6. View it in the browser. And now there's this intimidating little clock that's counting down. And I can work on the problem as much as I want while that thing is counting down, but as soon as it's done, it'll say, time is up. And it will give me a score based on how well I did, but since I didn't get the answer in time, it felt 0 was the way to go. That is all I have to show for JQuiz. When I go on to the next video, which will be JClose, there will be more talking about the configuration window since there'll be more to work with there. So I'll see you there. Happy cooking!